Welcome to the EST Hangout.
This is the EST Hangout, and today's guests are...
And a good Monday morning to you. Welcome to the EST Hangout live right here on Edmonton Sports Talk. Thanks for tuning in on TuneIn, iHeartRadio, on our website, edmontonsportstalk.com. To those watching on YouTube and to those in the future listening to the podcast, we appreciate you as well. Matt Iwanyk with you here. We got Wil Fraser. We got Don Ellis, both back into the Hangout. Gents, how are you guys doing today?
Outstanding.
I've just been walking around going, that was pretty much a perfect sports weekend.
Yeah, I heard you say that to Dusty.
Yeah.
I disagree. Actually, no, I don't. I was just trying to think. Well, my Ravens lost on Thursday, so that's not the weekend.
That's not the weekend.
Hurricanes won. Washington State Cougars won. Edmonton Elks won. Canada Soccer won. Yeah, I'm actually pretty good.
It's a pretty good week.
Right? Dusty's Lions won. My
Your
Bears won.
Who's your NFL team?
Seahawks won.
Seahawks.
I hear that. I didn't even watch it. I just hear it was one of the worst games ever.
First half, terrible.
And I'm a Bears fan. I experienced a really bad start.
Really bad. The defense kept them in it.
Yeah.
But they came back. The fourth quarter was pretty exciting, and they got it done.
So there, my Bears win. My Bears did exactly what they needed to do, which was the defense needed to. As a Bears fan, I've spent the entire offseason going, no, I understand it. We've got the best young quarterback. You need to surround him with talent, but please don't forget about the defense. Well, it looks very much like they did not forget about the defense. Yeah. So
Broncos are going to be questioning their quarterback. Well,
that's what Broncos do.
Yeah, I tweeted out that Simpsons where Homer got the Broncos. So
yeah.
Oh yeah.
It was.
I think as long as John Elway has his fingers in there, they're going to have.
I think he's out though.
No, he still has influence.
I thought he's completely gone now when this new ownership came. I don't think he's with the organization anymore.
Hopefully.
Anyway, they're bad. Seahawks bent but didn't break. that first half was maybe the worst half of football I've seen in a long time. But it's early, first games of the year.
Yeah.
You're going to have struggles with your offense. The defenses are going to shine a little bit for the next week or so.
Yeah.
And we got the big Monday nighter tonight.
Man, that NFC is going to be a beast this year.
They're going to be ugly. Yeah.
Like, there's going to be some absolute knockdown, drag 'em out fist fights this year in the NFC.
It's the greatest time of the year. We got hockey coming.
Yeah.
We got all the football going, college football. Bears got spanked on the weekend.
Yeah. There's where the weekend wasn't as perfect.
That was bad. The Dinos are tough. They're...
But they weren't supposed to be for this.
No.
And the Bears they didn't show up.
Pick six? They got
three pick sixes.
Oh, jeez.
And Bears even themselves scored a pick six. So there's four of them in the game overall. But the Dinos' offense, I don't think scored an offensive touchdown.
No, it was just
and they lost.
Freebies. Yeah.
So 24 points off of pick sixes. Wow.
That's 21. 3 pick sixes.
No, I'm saying in total in the game.
28
total.
Yeah.
It was wild.
Sold out though. Right.
It was sold out. The students were there. They were having a good time. But yeah, they couldn't get it done, that was a disappointing part. John Elway's not listed on the Broncos.
Yeah, I think he's gone.
Anywhere, so he's not there. But Sir Lewis Hamilton is listed as an owner, and so is Condoleezza Rice. Just throwing that out there. So maybe they could go fix this when it comes to the Denver Broncos.
Good for her.
Well, the thing about Condoleezza, she was on, I feel like, one of the first college football playoff committees.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that interesting?
Look at you, Mr. Knowledge.
Yeah, no, if I'm not mistaken, she was on it because she's connected with Stanford, I believe.
Oh, I'm sure she's one of the brightest people in the world. Like when you talk about Renaissance man, like Condoleezza Rice is the poster child for this. She's a concert level pianist. Like she negotiates between world leaders. Obviously, she's got a football connection. Like
she was the first woman member of Augusta, I think.
Yeah,
I think, or she when they first welcomed the women with membership.
Yeah,
there was only one or two, and I think Condoleezza Rice was one of them.
Yeah, no, she's one of the most impressive humans there is. It's wild. Yeah,
maybe she should run for president.
Well, I think she's too young. She's on the wrong party for that sort of a choice.
She's only 69. She's still got another many years left.
Jesus, I could date her. She's just a.
I want to see if I can find with Augusta. She was one of the first 2 females admitted in 2012.
Wow.
And the other was South Carolina financier Darla Moore. She's got quite a bit of connections.
Good for her.
For when it comes to
Fantastic.
for sports. But her name has been thrown out there a bit as if they ever needed a new commissioner.
Yeah,
her name has been thrown out as
I've heard that.
Would Condoleezza Rice be someone that would take over as the NFL commissioner? But
if they do need a new commissioner.
The owners are fine with Roger Goodell though.
Sure.
And if you're Roger Goodell, why would you leave your $70 million a year salary or whatever it is he makes?
And it's the easiest job in the world because all you ever have to do is say yes to the owners.
Say yes to the owners, and whatever decision you make, as bad as it can be, is going to work because it's the NFL.
A little Texas hotline rings, that red phone from Dallas.
To be commissioner of the NFL, you just need to have an appetite for eating bowls of crap. That's it. Because that's the job. You are smokescreen for the owners.
Question.
You do what they say, and you take all the blame.
You do that for $3.9 million.
Yeah,
Will
exactly.
you do that?
Yeah,
I'm in.
Exactly.
I'm in too.
Yeah, that is.
I'll do it for half.
Yeah, I'll be your professional.
Oh, you'll save
bowl
the
of crap
money.
eater.
I'll save them. They can keep the rest. Give me 35, 40. I'm in. I'm your guy.
Hey, Jerry, I'll save you some cash, and I'll
Jerry,
do just as good of a job as Roger.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I don't know when he'd leave that job. Why would you? Part of that. Let's start with the Edmonton Elks though before we get through everything this weekend. As Will said, it was a pretty wild, successful weekend all around. Exciting weekend. But let's get to Hangout headlines, which is brought to you by the Ranch Golf and Country Club, offering premier conditions, top-notch service, unmatched value. Book your tee time by visiting theranchgolf.com. Do need to give credit to Murray McCourt for 2 things. One, the VIP Golf Show at its final show of the season yesterday. So great season, Murray. But also, he threw it to me, and I said it on the kickoff show. He had heard from his sources that Trey Ford would be the starting quarterback following the bye week. And Jarius Jackson did say afterwards, Trey Ford would be the starting quarterback following the bye week. So he was first on it. Murray was first on it. But let's look at the game.
It also helps when the other quarterback is limping off the field.
Well, but the thing is, it was going to happen, I think, even with he's fully healthy. And I think you wouldn't make that decision for MBT's injury unless you waited to see how healthy or whatever MBT is. This would have been the plan.
Well, they're a 2-headed monster right now. Right? They are a football team that
it's good to have. And finally, the Elks have a running game.
Oh my goodness.
For years, they didn't. They lost their running game, and it killed them.
Yeah.
And now they're scary. And when Trey Ford's in there, now you got
4 guys that could run the football.
I was going to say
because they've got a 3-headed running.
They've got a 3-headed monster at running back. They've got a 2-headed monster at quarterback. They have an embarrassment of riches right now.
A receiving core that's full.
And a receiving core that's full and looks to have an absolute superstar in it as well.
Yeah,
so
he's so good.
Yeah, this is a team that they had hoped for 2 years ago finally showing up. So it does help that the competition across the West has absolutely fallen on its face.
Saskatchewan's in a complete tailspin.
Yeah. Calgary's an embarrassment.
Still tough.
Well, Winnipeg and BC, Winnipeg's good. BC has now turned it back up.
They got some injuries back, so they're...
And Edmonton's now up there.
Yeah.
And it's this 3-headed race right now for the West.
Yeah.
Which, who would have guessed 2 months ago that it would be saying it's Edmonton, Winnipeg, and BC? We would almost not even been saying Winnipeg.
No,
it should have been Saskatchewan and BC running away with this division, but Saskatchewan and BC fell down.
The Elks are pulling in Oilers. Is what the Elks are doing, right? They looked at the brothers across town and said, yeah, you know what? I think we can take the first 7 weeks off and just see what happens after that. And they've completely turned it around. There's not a better team in the CFL right now than the Elks, which is crazy to say, but look at their record over the last 8 weeks. It's wild.
Now, whoever coached McLeod Bethel Thompson and taught him to dive rather than slide. He's lucky he's alive. That's just oh my God.
He's trying to be Trey Ford.
You can tell he doesn't run, and I think he started going. He's like, I don't know what to do. I'm just gonna slide home.
The old Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the question was asked, like, who's the best team in the West? And you're saying they're the best team right now.
It's the Elks right now. Yeah.
Who's better? Who's better right now? Like,
well, everything's
going. Like, their offense is playing well. Their defense has come up. They're making some big plays.
Big plays.
I love how aggressive they are. Like, their linebackers are fast. Like, they will chase you down. It's good. There's so many
feels
positives
almost like something was taken out of the way for the Elks. Like, they removed some sort of impediment to creative thought and better roster decisions. I just can't put my thumb on what that change might have been.
It happened a little while ago.
The one thing that was brought up in our post-game show for the Green and Gold post-game show, when it came to the change of Chris Jones, wasn't even as much about
that's who it is.
Oh, right.
Chris Jones, right.
Wasn't even as much as the players. Did this open up Jarius Jackson and Jason Shivers to stop looking behind their shoulder
yes.
as an
totally
OC and a
100%.
DC? And we're just looking at the coaching staff in
Yes.
itself.
Yes.
That they don't have that pressure of Chris Jones.
To blossom and let your coaches coach. And he micromanaged.
This is just it. Like,
it was his way or the highway, and he wouldn't give the guys the freedom to let them run play. Like, the team looks like a completely different. We want to play football again.
And they haven't had a lot of roster changes.
No.
There's been like almost none from what
Every
Chris
week.
Jones has brought in
Every week
to
there
this
was
team.
something different.
Kujirai hasn't made these massive changes.
You're not good enough, Matt. You didn't run that one play, so you're out.
You're gone.
I have
kills your
yeah.
team.
I have no proof of this. I listen. I've never been on the sidelines for this squad, but this looks like a football team that had assistant coaches coaching players during the week, making calls, setting up game plans, who saw in game those same coaches being overruled by a head coach
100%.
who had no clue what he was doing, and they were just deflated at game time.
100%.
And now that coach is not overruling that play calling, and that play calling has just more buy-in from its players.
Everybody's engaged now.
Yeah.
The guys are making great blocks.
Yes.
The defense is, again, I'll go back to what I said before, how aggressive they are. They're tough to play against right now.
Yeah. Oh, this is just it. Like, it just feels like a team that had an asshole in charge, right?
Offensive
Like,
line's giving the quarterback time.
Yeah.
They're making great blocks on the gas.
And winning heals a lot of things. But this is more than just them finding their form. This is them getting rid of an impediment and just flowing.
And that was an impediment.
Yeah. No, this is an undammed river,
honestly,
right?
I didn't like when they brought him back. He when he left, he took our coaches, he took our players.
Yeah.
I'm like, see ya. That's it.
See, to me, that's the business of sport that never bothered me. What bothered me was that we knew who he was, which was an a-hole. And I just don't know why you would. When you are a team that has everything going for you and you get to that one moment and you can't get over the top, that's when you bring in a Chris Jones. Right? You bring in that guy that nobody likes, but he seems to have that ability to get that next level, right?
You're talking about like the Ken Hitchcock type thing
Exactly.
in hockey, where John Tortorella.
Yeah, but you don't bring in that guy for a team that is still trying to find its identity, trying to establish what and how they want to play football, because he is too dominant of a personality and too deaf to suggestion and changing of different things.
You don't give him both roles.
Right.
You give him head coach or put him as a defensive coordinator, whatever, but don't make him everything, because then it just goes sideways, and we saw it.
But the crazy part is, like, he could have turned this around himself. We could be praising Chris Jones today.
Sure.
And going, what a turnaround Chris Jones had with this team.
Yeah.
If he didn't get in his own way. And I'll point to two things specifically. One is not starting Trey Ford or playing. I'll just go playing Trey Ford. Not even starting Trey Ford, but mixing him in playing Trey Ford. But because it was Trey Ford that lit this rocket.
Yeah.
Once he came in, you saw the entire team play differently. And then everything has gone the way it's gone. But also this commitment to the run. They weren't running the football before with Chris Jones. And now, last game, I think it was 26 carries combined between Javon Lee, Kevin Brown, and Justin Rankin. And if you go these 5 of the last 6 wins, they're running the football close to 20 times a game, and they're getting this success, and they're having these longer drives, and the defense is resting, the defense can show up. If Chris Jones just committed to a running attack and mixing Trey Ford in with MBT, throwing him out there every so often, he could possibly be sitting here right now. We could be going, what a move, Chris. Like, wow, you've turned this around. It took 3 years, but you've done it. And now we're watching this team go forward, but he was too arrogant to do it.
The first few games, they were close games.
Yes.
Like they could have won a few of those, but no running game.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a linebacker, and if you've got a team that has 3 running backs like that and a mobile quarterback like that, that's scary to try and figure out.
Well, it backs you off on the line.
Oh.
Right? Like, it doesn't allow you to pin your ears
You're
back.
always thinking, right?
Yeah.
You're, okay, we got to...
Yeah, and that's all you need is just that little bit of hesitation. Right?
But to have that in your playbook as an offense, that, okay, these guys are they're covering our receivers pretty well. Let's run the shit out of them, excuse my language, for the first few plays here.
Yeah.
And then we got some studs, absolute studs that can catch that football.
Yeah.
They're in good shape.
Yeah, it's interesting what you mentioned about the linebacking, because it's also why the athletic linebacker has always succeeded in the CFL, is that you basically need a linebacker that can athletically cover up for that hesitation, right? That can decide to not pin the ears back off the snap and assess, and then still cover the ground. And the Eskimos right now are exploiting teams. The Elks are exploiting teams in that regard, in that they are going up against some defenses that have teams that like to pin their ears back and forcing them to think again and again. When it comes to the quarterbacking situation, I just wonder how many times was he audibling at the line, and was that what caused the friction in that relationship between Chris Jones and his quarterback? Was
Trey Ford?
In Trey Ford. Was this a quarterback who likes to call his own number more than his head coach likes?
The issue was, from what I could gather, one, didn't think he was a quarterback anymore.
Okay.
But I think one of the things that fractured the relationship, it wasn't on field, it was the fact that he went to an NFL mini camp in between year 1 and 2.
Okay.
And they didn't like that. He didn't like that.
Isn't that ironic, hey? That you have a head coach that demands loyalty?
I never even thought of that part.
Has never shown it himself.
He jumped to the NFL and the chance he got. I never actually, all these years, I never even thought of that.
That job, I'm just going down there.
It's a real mystery why he had players that didn't exactly love him. Like, that he would do that to a player who's just in search of financial security for his family. That's all.
Well, not even that. That's the dream.
Right.
Anyone who plays football, as much as we love the Canadian Football League in Canada, that's not the end goal. No. If you could get to the NFL, you want to go to the NFL.
100%.
If you can get to the practice squad in the NFL.
Why would you ever not look at that if you're a CFL team and go, I understand why, if you have a chance to be looked at even by an NFL team, you take that shot because that's the dream.
Right. And we have a history of that with guys like Warren Moon, right?
Yep.
Warren Moon wasn't getting a look in the States for one reason. So he comes up, has an unbelievable career here in the CFL, and then he goes on to a great career in the NFL too.
He's the unicorn of it though, right? Like,
but that's what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, when you let a guy come up here, develop for a few years, and fly.
Right.
Off you go.
Yeah. Any guy that looks like Warren Moon, though, gonna eventually get his chance.
The greatest. I've been always fortunate. I got to see him and Ricky Ray.
Yeah.
All those guys in their prime, and it was just.
Well, except Ricky Ray, you understood why he would never make it in the NFL. No. His arm strength was just not where it needed to be.
It all. He had a bullet.
Oh my goodness! And 6'5", and could move, and
just a stud.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it shouldn't have ever come to Canada. That's what that one comes down to. This text into the Paris Jewelers inbox, 780-218-9999. You guys are making some wild accusations about Jones. Listen, I'm not a Jones apologist, but the things you're saying I think are maybe a little exaggerated. If you want to say that the defense is playing a different scheme, sure, no problem. But saying he neutered his coaches on game day is somewhat questionable. Why, I would say, though, with that? Like, look at this commitment to the run. You could just see that everyone around, there's a breath of fresh air. And I do know from talking to some people that, like, within the building of Commonwealth, there does feel like a little bit of relief that comes from the fact that Chris Jones is no longer there, and there's a little bit more joy that has been brought back to the Edmonton Elks locker room. But like, again, the players haven't changed. Really, like Tevin Jones came in, but Chris Jones signed him. But okay, they starting him. Justin Rankin is a start that wasn't there from Chris Jones. But the rest of this roster is Chris Jones's roster, where he was losing all those football games. So what has fully changed with that? And the fact that they didn't run before and now they're running. What's the difference? Well, there was Chris Jones ahead of the OC, Jarius Jackson, and now Jarius is doing that. So I could absolutely look at that and go, it looks like his coaching staff was a bit. Lack of better term, muffled in a sense of how they can go about doing their thing. That's the word I'm looking for.
It's a fair point, but we're not making accusations. It's a point.
It's just you're looking at what we're seeing.
Right, and it's some of the play calling early was we didn't get into that, but it was very questionable. Like third down calls, it wasn't good, right?
Listen, I think it's a fair question, but to me, what speaks volumes is the absolute silence from this organization since they've become successful about their former coach. Right? They are not, there is no one standing up going, you know what, we're just executing the system that Chris Jones put in place. There is no one out there going, it's too bad that he couldn't have stuck around to see the success, because this was this was his blueprint. And usually there is at least some sort of talk like that. You create some sort of a loyalty within your organization so that even when you're gone, unless they change out the entire staff, the remaining staff will usually have some sort of fondness for the man and for the opportunity that was given. And there is absolute silence from this organization.
Yeah, maybe Hernan can talk about that a little more, because he was right in there, but I agree.
Yeah.
Like if, Seattle's moved on, teams move on from that.
Yeah.
That coaching situation. And it's, you got to keep them growing. Sometimes you got to cut.
Right. Yeah.
And they didn't cut soon enough.
And it's also, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. It's also
sure.
It's hard not to feel like that's part of what's at play here.
Well, you got positivity going now, so let's not talk about the baggage.
Yeah.
Right.
Just move on.
Stamphater in Calgary does add, what a fantastic sweater on, Don.
Hey.
What do you have? Husband, dad, rec, hockey, dangler. Oh, I like that.
That's me.
The other positive from that game was sold out lower bowl.
Yep.
Commonwealth Stadium, and what looked like just an absolutely incredible atmosphere.
Beautiful weather.
Yeah.
A little smoky, but beautiful weather. That's what we need. And winning changes everything, right?
Doesn't it?
And I'm glad they didn't go to the upper, try and scatter. Like, get that nice and tight down there. Beautiful.
And keep going that way. Like, we had a couple people in the post-game show, like, trying to, like, come up with the ideas of opening up the upper bowl, and I was like, leave it for now. Keep building that lower bowl. And like Dusty on the morning show today, he said his folks are coming up for the Estes next week, and they're going to stick around and go to a game. He's like, oh, I got to get tickets, actually. Like, you can't wait right now a little bit, because tickets might go.
His folks are coming up?
Yes.
Okay, I can help him out with that. I got great seats.
But
it's a nice flex. It's a good flex. I don't
Don's
have that
way
flex.
too kind with that stuff. He's extremely generous.
I got my dad's seats back.
Yeah.
Like I was going to EE games since I was 6 years old. So Clark Stadium right into the new.
You're like Larry Thompson.
I'm like Larry. Well, Larry's not that much older than I am, but holy cow, I'm a better driver. He just about took out the Stamps bench. It was coming through.
And he didn't slow down.
He didn't slow down.
You would have thought that he would have just like, it would have been a stop and then all the players would have moved and he would have drove by really slowly. It was a good pace he went behind that bench.
That would have been a highlight there with the vehicular manslaughter from the new owner of the
I posted it on Twitter because who posted it? One of our listeners, actually, I think it was H.E. Pennypacker, maybe. He had a video from that sideline where it was funny because he got through the Stamps bench and it was clear path the rest of the sideline. And instead of taking the clear path and just finishing what he started, he turned off back onto like where the track was, where the Calgary Stampeders cheerleaders were. And he just went through the cheerleaders afterwards. Like, I'm going to take out both of these teams.
Yeah.
We're going through the team. We're going through the cheerleaders. This is my team. This is my turf.
You know that horse is going to come back at us, right?
They've been doing that for how many years, though?
That's true. They have.
Although I think they now do it on the home side, not on the visitor side. But for the longest time, they did it on the visitor side.
Yeah.
So they can't
Just to
get on
annoy
that.
us. Just to annoy us. It's because he used to be killing us for years.
Yeah.
Right? But no, the fans coming back. Do we have time to talk a little bit about what they should do with the stadium?
Of course.
Because if that 30,000,
We still got an hour and a half.
like that track has to go.
Yeah.
In my opinion, we have one or two track events.
Well, it's over. Like the track is gone. Like it's
So-
not. It hasn't been kept up.
I don't
They've
know if
squared
they
out the
can,
thing. So what do you do?
come down from that top, put a mezzanine or something like a loge seats or something up in there, and move that whole thing. Get rid of that track, bring it in nice and close. I don't know.
You would say move the field to one side, or what?
Or
lower it. You're saying.
or do something with that lower level and bring it out, bring it forward.
Bring some more seats in that area. Yeah, that's because like if you look at Cowboy Stadium, and there's probably other stadiums, but I always just go to Cowboy Stadium. There's like suites all on the field level.
Right.
I know Ed Hervey wanted to slide the track or the turf towards the west side and have it up against those seats. East side would be further away. And the only other thing you could do is lower the field and build seats toward it.
Yep.
But you're adding more seats, which would be the issue.
Or cut the top off, dome it.
I
Or
wonder how that would go, how easy that would be.
move somewhere else because he's got lots of money and build your own.
Yeah, and see, that's the big thing with the build your own is
He's a construction guy. He can manage the costs.
the thing is, how big are you building?
I think he managed it, in my opinion, 30.
But then do you get the
35.
Metallicas and the pinks?
Well, I went to Metallica and it was fantastic.
Was it?
Oh.
Did you go both or which night
I
did
just
you go?
went to the Friday night.
Well, Calgary shows you that you don't.
Don't what?
Well,
You don't
get the show.
events.
You don't get the
So
shows.
there's
And that's the
Yeah.
balancing act here.
So let's
is like because you got a location for this. There's an easy location. Bruce Simpson from Willie Huff threw it out on Fridays as well on the Hangout. Like it's the old Northlands racetrack.
Yeah.
You could tear that down, and it's a great land. LRT's right
Still on
there.
the same LRT. Yeah.
So like the transportation, there's that whole parking lot.
Yeah.
So like there would actually be a relatively there's your location, but it's that cost of what are we building with this?
Right.
Yeah.
Can you build a retractable roof stadium that's 45? What's that cost? Do we have the appetite for that cost? Does the province come in with money for that?
they should because of Calgary.
Absolutely.
$200-300 million worth.
But they will say that they invested that in the surrounding, not in the actual rink. So is
there's
there
always a spin.
right? So, but that's I don't want to lose out on the Metallicas and the Pinks, even though it doesn't happen as much by building too small of a facility.
It's a good point because that outdoor atmosphere when you have good weather is unbelievable for a concert.
football.
I'm a big believer in cities are built like on their facilities. And that includes libraries, that includes concert halls and what have you. So I have no problem if this city goes, listen, it's been 50 years. It's time to start thinking about our next multi-purpose facility. But you can't build it around the Elks. The Elks guarantee 10 dates a year.
100%.
You cannot justify that kind of cost for 10 nights a year.
It's got to be a multi-use facility.
Yeah.
And
Well-
maybe we could bring back if it's a roofed facility, we can get lacrosse, soccer.
Well, soccer would come back.
Soccer would come
If you built, let's say, a 35,000 seat, I'm going to take the roof out of this for a second, stadium, Edmonton's going to get a CPL team again, and you're looking at an additional 15, I think. I don't know what the full
Events.
schedule is for those soccer games that will come in. So you got that, you got the Elks, maybe get a couple summer concerts if you can. Where I would go, if you're building brand new, you got to do a retractable roof because then you could use it 12 months of the year. You
I
could
don't
bring
even-
conventions into
I don't even
town.
know if it needs to be retractable. Like
I think it. I don't.
The designs for Winnipeg and Mosaic Places, Saskatchewan, are pretty good.
Yeah.
Like they're designed to deflect the wind and things like that, right?
But you're not going to bring a concert in January,
Right.
Right.
No.
Whereas if you had to me, I think you need retractable because you want to go to a football game, you want to be outside when it's nice. You want to go to the Metallica show. You want to be outside when
Not
that
only
show's
that, but-
going. It adds a little
But
something.
if you're talking about that location at Northlands, it needs to be built in conjunction with the facilities that are already in place, which is for trade shows and what have you. And so basically what you're doing is building what would it be, a Hall L or whatever it would be. It would be something in conjunction with that all of a sudden it justifies that because you can bring in bigger conventions, boat shows, whatever. I mean, basically the O in Montreal, that's its purpose. That's what they do with it. It is basically just a convention space right now for that city. And so you could do something along the same lines that all of a sudden starts to justify the cost.
Yeah.
But you have to justify it, and it can't be 10 home dates for football.
I wish our city would be a little bit more creative, like Seattle, how they took that old building and revitalized it for the Kraken.
Yeah.
That was really well thought out architecture.
Yeah, but that was also Ann Schultz money, right? Like,
well, we need an Ann Schultz.
yeah, if you have a German industrialist show up with $1 billion bucks,
you're out there.
Yeah.
She's sitting at home listening to the show. Give me a call. I'll throw some stuff by you and let's go.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fascinating discussion moving forward.
The soccer angle is interesting because if you build a proper MLS quality facility,
you're not getting MLS.
Well, don't say that so fast. You're not getting MLS next week.
Build it and they will come.
You're not getting MLS next week, but you do become that place where the existing MLS franchise that is in a market that is not showing up all of a sudden starts to look.
Soccer Canada messed up soccer here. They should have supported that big event coming here. They screwed Edmonton. They did.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be having this discussion right now because there'd be hundreds of $millions being pumped into Commonwealth to fix Commonwealth.
100%.
And that's what would have happened. And we'd be going, oh, we're going to deal with Commonwealth for another 20 years because they're doing this, but we didn't get that support because even in the end, there should have been 3 Canadian cities. That's what the bid was.
Yep. And
there's only 2. And there should have been a third, and by default, Edmonton should have got one of those.
I'm actually really happy that it's not Edmonton. I don't want FIFA and World Cup touching this city because all they do is ruin stuff.
Sure, but the economic benefit, I do believe, would have outweighed that. To the MLS point, though, there's like Phoenix doesn't have an MLS team. There's a few cities that don't have it in the States yet. They would be ahead. And beyond that, the question is like your expansion. I don't think there's someone in Edmonton that wants to put $600 million to buy an expansion.
I don't disagree, but if you had a facility, because I'd love to see lacrosse come back. I was a season ticket holder for lacrosse. Fantastic sport, and we let that go too, right? So if you had a multi-use, you could do CFL, professional lacrosse, get some soccer, and maybe you don't get the big boys coming in right away for soccer, but look how successful our Riverhawks are.
Well, I'll take CPL. Like I went to quite a few of the last games in that last season. It was a great time.
It's all right, yeah.
It's fun footy if you want. So I'd have no problem with CPL back because then you actually do play on. There's competitions where they'll play Vancouver, Toronto, or Montreal, and they might come here, and it'd be fun. If it's all we get is CPL, I could live with that.
We have one of the best players in the world,
Yep.
who's an Edmonton kid, Alphonso Davies, and we let all that slip away. All that marketing that could have gone into having him be a champion, and it's a huge sport here.
I actually don't think you need a team to build football in this city. I think the current climate of national team, along with just being able to write a check and having friendlies between European pro clubs, I think you could do another 10 plus dates a year of high level football in this city if you have the facility to bring them into. And so now all of a sudden you're talking about 20 dates that you can reliably book and say, yeah, 40,000 people will be in the stands. And that's when you can all of a sudden start to justify the cost of that. You bring it up to 30 dates with other things, and then you really start to roll in, because then you can start to fill it out with conventions and concerts and what have you. But you need to have a vision for it.
We had Metallica was the only dates in Canada. 2 shows here.
There was Montreal. I thought it was the only show as well, but it was also there's Montreal.
Oh, okay.
But still, it wasn't Toronto or Vancouver
I was at
in
that
there.
comedy show last night.
Oh yeah, how was Jim Jeffries and Jimmy Carr?
It was good.
Yeah.
Like you can't be easily offended to go to see those guys.
No.
But they were really good. But they were chatting a little bit about French Canadians and things.
Yeah, Jim Jeffries would have some thoughts.
Jim Jeffries is unbelievable. Amos Gills was the warm-up guy, and I guess he's going to be doing a show here at West Edmonton Mall, one of the comedy clubs.
Okay.
But that guy's funny. He's an up-and-comer, and he did a really good job intro. So, good show. I wasn't offended. They try to offend everybody, so...
That's the part with comedies. People get offended. Like, I don't know how to balance that in this new world that we are in, where you have to be careful what you say.
So is it offensive?
But that's comedy.
There were 7,000 or 8,000 people. There was a good...
It's also not anything new. Like, buddy, when I grew up and The Simpsons came on, kids were banned from watching it.
I wasn't allowed to watch it.
Right? So
my parents were worried about The Simpsons. And I love telling this.
This is not new. This has always been the case.
I love telling this story about The Simpsons because my parents wouldn't let my brother and I watch The Simpsons because they thought it was bad, but they didn't know anything about South Park, and I was allowed to watch South Park. And I tell them, you got that completely wrong. So wrong. You should have banned South Park. Let me watch The Simpsons.
Well, now we have Family Guy, which is just off the chart.
You want to know something? I saw it a little bit on TikTok where people are going like, how was Family Guy not canceled? And they show clips of like earlier Family Guy 2 and stuff. And I was like, wow, that they got away with that.
It's
comedy's Ricky Gervais, the guy with comedy that you see that like he goes to offend and he doesn't like, that's comedy.
Ricky's only problem is every now and then he forgets to be funny.
You don't think Ricky's funny?
I think he is. I think he is funny. I think he is offensive.
Yeah.
And sometimes he is not funny while being offensive. And that's always a bad take. Like, that's always a bad take. Like,
he's just being offensive?
Yeah, he's just being offensive for offensive sake.
I love him at the, what is it? Golden Globes? I think he hosted the Golden Globes a few times, and he just goes after the celebs, and it's just the best.
Oh, sure.
I love when they're shaking in their boot.
What's nice is he takes them down a notch.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You know, you're no better than me, but you come in here because you did one movie. I won't get into that.
It's great.
It was pretty funny.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Commonwealth moving forward. Is the conversations are starting, and at some point you got to start moving forward with whatever plan it is, whether it's Commonwealth, whether it's not Commonwealth, and it's a brand new facility.
I hope they bring in a really good art. Sorry to interrupt.
No.
I get that from my mother, so she's a Saskatchewan girl, and if she needs to make a point, you're going down. But I hope they bring in a really good architect team. Like whoever designed our downtown library. Wow.
Oh, you don't like it?
No.
Oh, actually, I don't mind it.
They had to cut.
It could have been better.
They had to take a bunch of the glass out because they didn't structure. Like,
oh, really?
You go to Calgary, the architecture in Calgary, they got us beat a little bit, and we should be better than those guys.
Well, our art gallery. I love the look of the art gallery. We need more like that in the city.
The art gallery's cool.
Yeah,
it's so completely different. But our library looks like one of those Tesla cars.
Oh.
Well, the library was a renovation. It wasn't a new build. Like, that's the difference between Calgary and Edmonton. Calgary's was a fresh new build.
For what?
For the library.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And the Stanley Mill.
They just have a lot of different looks in Calgary. They have a lot of different buildings that look really nice.
It could be great. It could be a great facility. It was designed Commonwealth to put a roof on at one point.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's structurally built to sustain a roof, but
put the roof on it.
No,
that would be like a gazillion dollars.
That thing is.
Put the roof on it. No, that's the one problem with Commonwealth. Those building new places, it's too costly to tear down Commonwealth.
Yeah, that's a lot of dynamite.
They haven't even torn down old Rexall. Right?
Well, that's because we need the money for that one, and that one this province might come up with that money because they're paying to tear down Saddle Dome.
Yeah, I still think we should have sent that down the highway to Calgary. That's maybe one of the greatest gifts ever. Is that big truck taking them.
Was that I think Visually Better posted that one.
Oh God, they're good.
I think that's what he did. So good job, Visually Better.
Yeah,
it's
prompts.
But yeah, it's exciting times when it comes to the Elks, and we'll see what the future holds for their team on the field and their team off the field when it comes to the facility and stuff. Just for those Commonwealth story that came out last week, that was just a design that was approved. There's no funding approved.
No.
That's like the most initial part of a process to building something, so it's nothing. Yeah. And if anything ever gets approved, it's not even going to look like that. We're so many steps away from having anything done. So it's going to
we
be up
have
to Mr. Larry Thompson to get things going with the city and the province and see where we go with this. But they've got it. At the very least, if you're winning football games and there's people coming, it's a little bit of an easier sell to try to get something done.
It's why I think as the city, you talk with the Elks about what they would like to see in a new facility, but you have to do it independent from them, right? This is like...
Well, it would be, because the city will own this.
Right. It has, like, you can't be taking your marching orders from a 10-night per year tenant, right? Yes, they will use it. It will be what people around Canada know that stadium for, but it's not what the world is going to know that stadium for. It's not what...
Well, that's what it is right now, too.
Right. Like, the reason
Elks
why...
didn't bring in Metallica.
Right.
I don't believe.
No, not at all.
That would be someone in the city or whoever else bringing in Metallica.
And so, I mean, if you want to know why they need to start talking about it now, just ask yourself, why is it called Commonwealth Stadium? And it's called Commonwealth Stadium because it hosted the Commonwealth Games in 77. Right? That's all you need to know, that it hosted something that happened. Well, it got built 50 years ago.
The Queen coming in.
Right. And so
She had her private bathroom.
She did.
you should basically be looking at, in the next 10 years, where are we going to be? When Commonwealth Stadium is 60 years old, what do we want to be in the process of being built? Because Commonwealth should not be a 70 or an 80-year-old stadium. It was
maybe we rename it.
Well, you want to know something? I'm a little surprised that it hasn't been.
They haven't sold the naming rights?
They haven't found the money to go do that. Like, the closest we ever got was the Elks sold, at the time, the Eskimos, the field. It was the brick field at Commonwealth Stadium. Why we haven't gone to the point where it's the...
Well, because they don't own the building, right?
But why isn't the city sold it?
Yeah, I don't know.
They're now starting to sell, like, rec centers. Booster Juice, I think, just took over the Terwilliger Rec Center.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be the Booster Juice Rec Center, or whatever it's going to be called. Mm-hmm. How have they not been able to get a couple...
Jackie Parker Memorial Stadium or something.
But that's not paid. They're not getting money for that. Right? Like, I'm thinking, like, how has it not been
Some corporation?
the Finnish long drink stadium?
Obviously, they can't get the number that they want to change the name.
Isn't any money good money?
Well, there
At
is
least for the city right now?
There is a cost, right?
To change it?
Just
you're saying?
signage alone. There is a cost to things. And so it has to at least cover the change in the signage.
Because they changed, they're the ones that made the deal with Remax to change Telus Field to Remax Field.
Right.
They would have had it under Telus too.
Yeah.
But they haven't done it with Commonwealth. And look, I'm a tradition. I love that it's still Commonwealth. I love the fact that there are still some stadiums out there that aren't sponsored.
But no, it's something.
And I love the fact that it's still Commonwealth Stadium. There's something, innocent about that. Still.
Something tells me.
But I'm just surprised we haven't got there yet.
There is an accountant somewhere in a city office who has the number of how much it will cost to change the name. And until
he's got a call from the new owner.
And until they get more money than what that cost is, they're not going to be changing any names. And I'm sure it's not a cheap number. Like, it's not
what
like
they want to sell it for.
Well,
or
what it would cover. Like, I'm sure it's.
Well, we'd have to ask maybe Bruce Simpson for $1.5 million. What that would cost would be.
I'm sure it's not little. It's probably more than what we expect. And then to convince a corporation to shell out basically twice that much to be able to get the naming rights. I don't know. I don't know if that corporation exists.
Well, we got some media out there, big money, Rogers and Telus, and
the Rogers and Bell own basically every arena in this country. Naming rights. It's we and Scotiabank. Those are like the only three names that we have for certain.
And Canadian Tire. Yeah.
But like we have like all the BC Place isn't sold. McMahon's not sold.
Yeah.
Mosaic is sold.
Yeah.
Princess Auto sold. TD Place in Ottawa sold. Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton sold. BMO in Toronto sold. Although that does include the full soccer team. And Montreal's not sold, but that's university. And Calgary's university. Actually, I'm surprised BC Place is not sold.
Yeah.
How has BC Place not got a name for it? They got Whitecaps and the Lions.
Yeah.
How were they not able to sell that one?
Because they probably have a market value of what they know that name should
be worth. And nobody's wanted to pay that number yet.
Yeah.
What do the texters say?
Some of them in the nasty chat. Rip City Step. Wait, King Charles isn't paying for the naming rights at Commonwealth Stadium?
King Charles Arena. I wouldn't go again.
Marty Milner, Commonwealth is the grand lady of Canadian stadiums. She's perfect.
Well, it's an amazing stadium. Like, it really is.
Edmonton Sports Talk Field at Shanks Stadium. After Edmonton Sports Talks, buy Shanks. Yes. Reopen Shanks, and then we'll just get the naming rights of the stadium. We'll put everything into it.
That should be top on Dusty's to-do list.
Shanks one? Well, and it's funny because Murray, when we first trolled Murray about this, he's like, that's a good idea. And then he's texted Dusty and I in like the weeks after, like, you guys should really look into this. I've done business, like, it would work. And I'm like, Murray, like, not right now. Just don't keep encouraging us to do this because like, I believe that one day it might happen, and I don't want to get my hopes up.
The books.
COO.
Oh, COO.
I'm not CFO.
Sorry,
I don't do the books. I think Dusty's dad does that.
Completely expanded.
Yeah,
so no,
it's. I got to figure out the plan for it.
Get Hernan some new clothes because he comes in here all decked out in the Elks. Like, he's with you guys.
He looks really good in green, though.
He does.
He does. Also, they're winning again.
Yeah.
So it's cool to wear the Elks around.
He left, and now they're.
I was about to say maybe he's got a little bit of jealousy that he's not there with the winning.
I'm just saying.
He took one for the team.
He took one for the good for him.
He left.
He told me
that they could start winning.
He told me no Chris Jones, no Hernan. He's just loyal. He's a loyal guy.
He is a loyal guy.
He tried to go to Hamilton, but there's no Hamilton Sports Talk, so he's like, I guess I'll stay in Edmonton. This is the EST Hangout. Matt Iwanyk, Wil Fraser, Don Ellis with you here. Will just hanging out. Nice picture. With your wife on your watch. And then Don, Contemporary Office Interiors, coi.ca for if you're looking to furnish your office. Don joining us here on the Hangout as well.
Office tower would be better. Go big.
I do want to.
I
know you were busy this weekend, so you didn't get a chance to watch Canada USA.
Yeah, in a
soccer friendly 2-1, and coming off of Copa
in the US.
Yeah.
Too.
So this is the first time since 1957 that Canada has beat the USA
on home soil.
On American soil. They of course beat USA in Canada during World Cup qualifying.
No, it was Nations League.
It was Nations League.
That was the first time they did Nations League.
Okay, and by coming off of Canada at Copa, where they amazed everybody, and the USA completely fell on its face, leading to them firing their head coach, leading to them going, man, maybe we shouldn't have passed on Marsh. And then to have Marsh and his squad walk in, and it's not just that they beat USA. That first half was as dominant as we've seen a Canadian squad play yet. They absolutely terrorized Team USA.
Oh, they're up 2-0, weren't they?
Yeah,
they were up 2-0.
Yeah.
David, 58th minute to make it 2-0. Schaffelberg, 17th minute goal. Canada outshot the U.S. both on goal and attempts.
Yes.
It was 17 attempts to 8. On target was 7-5.
Yeah.
So Canada just absolutely dominated when it came to that. And I'm assuming, I'm just on an ESPN recap of this. I'm assuming this is an analyst that ESPN has, but the Veris blast U.S. men's national team mentality after the loss.
Yeah.
That's the one headline.
Marsh is
Moreno, it was all Canada all the time in the first half. Those are the two headlines on ESPN when it comes to that.
Marsh and Team Canada are going to be in USA's head for the next decade. Because every time Canada,
it won't be a decade. Marsh
every
won't be
time
here for a
Canada
decade.
overachieves, and right now they are still overachieving, although I think sooner or later the rest of the football world will wake up to the fact that things have happened here in Canada. Like the talent level has just accelerated. But Team USA is in shambles heading into a World Cup that they are co-hosting with Mexico and Canada. And Canada is the exact opposite. Canada looks like they are building something here where, cross your fingers, this is a team that might get out of the group stage, which would be incredible.
For the U.S., they are getting a new manager, though. Manager's not in place with Poch, who is a world-class manager. but also doesn't have any real trophies to his name outside of a couple with PSG, but he better win with PSG.
He's also a guy who has no history with Team USA.
No history with Team USA, no history with MLS players, which is something you're going to need, and doesn't have a lot of runway to the World Cup. You lost it because you weren't in place for Copa. The reason Copa was so important was it's the last major tournament to get prepared for the World Cup in 2 years.
Yeah.
Gold Cup's going to come next summer, but it's going to be just a battle between Canada, Mexico, and the US again, and see what's going on. And friendlies are friendlies. Like, there's only so much you can get out of friendlies. And the Poch won't have that in the lead up to that World Cup. So that's going to be a big change for them. But Marsh has his team playing well, and they believe in him. And the thing about Marsh that I love is how much he's buying into Canada. Like, he said before the match, he wasn't going to sing the American anthem. As an American, he was only going to sing the Canadian one because he's becoming more and more Canadian, he feels like, every day. And, like, I would have had no problem if he sang the American anthem. Yeah. It's like, you're American. Yeah. And you're playing in America, and if you sang both anthems, awesome. But the fact that he's like, no, I'm the Canadian manager. This is the nation I'm representing. I love that fact from him, that he's just fully buying into our country.
When you check in on football coverage in the States, so soccer coverage in the States, it is in their head. Like, they are beside themselves with how blunt Marsh has been of his assessment of what USA Soccer has done and how much he has bought into Team Canada. They right now, like I said, they are in their head. Like, they can't overlook what's going on in Canada. And it's probably the least covered story in sport in Canada right now, which is the rise of the men's side.
Well, the re-rise. I will say, because they rose in that March to the 22 World Cup. Yeah. And then they got qualified, and then they had those friendlies, the one scheduled against Iran that got canceled. Yeah. Because it shouldn't have been booked in the first place. There was the whole battle, which I think still is somewhat ongoing, between the players and Canada Soccer. Yep. And then the World Cup came, and it just wasn't there. And then it looked like there was a bit of a mess.
They ran out of room with their head coach.
And so
their head coach was able to get them to A level, but nothing happened.
But then they get into Nations League to try to qualify for Copa America, and they don't get through, and they have to go through the playoff, and you're like, well, we're back to being almost Canada again. Yeah. And then Jesse Marsh is taking over, and Copa happens, and it's been this rise. And it's back to this feel good. The players seem to be together again. Everything's good about, and just Jesse Marsh. He was in Edmonton 23 days ago. There was something taking place here in Edmonton, and he was here to take it in,
to just show up,
because he understands what the role of the national team is. You also have to be there for the grassroots and stuff, and seeing how things are. And, like, I don't know if Poch takes over the U.S. men's national team, if he's going to be showing up in, that spot in, Phoenix, Arizona, to go look at that youth event or whatever it is. But Jesse Marsh is doing it with Canada. And I love that fact from him as well.
There is a reason why he is not the manager of Team USA yet, that being Posh, and that's because he has an agent who is negotiating the contract, which is never a great sign that it's dragging on. It means that you have a manager who is looking for exceptions to not have to do his job as much as the organization wants him to. And unfortunately for Team USA, they want a name, and they're not concerned with an end product as much as they should be, which is why Jesse Marsh is manager for Canada and not USA. USA interviewed him, decided to pass. And it's thankfully that happened, because Canada right now is absolutely benefiting.
Now, what's happened on the women's side? Have they got a new coach yet? Or
she's still the coach, Bev Priestman.
Okay. She's suspended.
She will be getting relieved of her duties, though, at some point, because there was, I forgot which podcast it was, might have been the Footy podcast. There was a current player on there saying at the Olympics, she didn't realize it until they started playing those games, how refreshing it was. Like we were speaking about with Chris Jones and stuff, how refreshing it was to not make a mistake and have someone just on you. And she's like, we kept it as players, I'm speaking like paraphrasing. She's like, we were always worried about getting reamed out for mistakes. And when they got, without Bev being there to manage them anymore because of the suspension, they were free again. And we saw the results of what happened of them playing. But to have a current player speak out so openly against her clearly says they know that she's going to be moving on, and they're just figuring out whatever needs to be figured out behind the scenes, but she's going to be gone.
Maybe Sinclair comes in to coach.
Yeah, I don't know what you would do. She's never coached, so I wouldn't go there yet. Because I think the women's program is too good. That I don't think you can go with a rookie coach. You need to go
there's
get.
so much pressure on them as elite athletes to win, right?
Yep.
But if you have the wrong coach,
Oh, the wrong coach could ruin it.
it can.
Teams.
Yeah, it can. A great coach can take a team so far.
Yeah, I think the women's side is probably fine because they have survived this before. Herdman left, and I think a lot of people attributed the success to the women's program to Herdman, and they accelerated past that.
Well, but because his assistant in Bev Priestman took over.
Yeah, but
so it was a continuation.
I guess you're right, but they've been able to switch managers and not have a regression. And I think you're also right in that it is a premier destination. As far as women's soccer is concerned, they probably are not going to struggle finding good talent that wants to coach those girls.
Well, the nucleus of the team is very good.
Oh.
The players, the skill.
And they keep adding 19 and 20-year-olds who are even better. Like their pipeline is stacked as well. Yeah.
I was trying to find quickly the quote who it was, and I just can't find it on a quick search here. But yeah, the women's, there'll be some sort of change at some point. We'll be surprised.
And
then it'll be like, yeah, but she still is, which is kind of also a little bit surprising. It's gone this long, but that clearly is then they're just trying to figure out, okay, if she's suspended, how long.
Be contractual
there's
things.
Contractual. And I wonder if FIFA is involved with this, is that we've suspended,
if they can make money, they'll be involved.
I just wonder how much of this has to do with them trying to figure out either whose butt needs to be protected or whose butt needs to be roasted, right? As far as who knew, when did you know, what did you do?
They're still doing an investigation of all this. Also, like, is this something you could fire with cause, or is this a buyout?
Well, I would think it's with cause, but maybe that's what they're trying to figure out. But then now they
have to negotiate that. Maybe there's behind the scenes negotiations being dealt with that, where it's like,
we don't need somebody they were talking about having a national inquiry over the whole thing. That needs to be an internal thing. Maybe a third party come in,
and that might be happening. And maybe that's what's taking a while. But look, Canada Soccer, they don't have money. So I think if they have a chance to get it out of a contract without having to pay her, they're going to look into try to getting out of that contract without having to pay her, because they're not a nation that could just go like, we're not a nation right now that could be like, here's your check, just go.
Get her a nice lifetime at Tim Hortons card, and off you go. Thanks for coming.
I just really want another. I don't know when the next big Canada Soccer game is going to be. These friendlies, they're still not. They're not get together and let's watch the friendly.
It's true, but
because Gager was upset that we hadn't invited him to ones in the past, and he was mad at Hernan and I last week. I'm like, well, now you have to come, so I got to invite you, but I need that next match, so I can be like, Gager, where are you?
I am going to be interested to see the level of competition Canada is now able to attract for friendlies.
It's going to be tough
in the lead up to the World Cup.
It's going to be tough though. They get Mexico on tomorrow. I think get used to seeing U.S. and Mexico a lot.
Yes, no.
Because
they will be on the schedule, but
yes, but there's the international windows, and right now UEFA, they're in UEFA Nations League, and then next year they start World Cup qualifying in their international windows. South America's doing World Cup qualifying right now in their international windows. They don't have time to go play friendlies because they're locked into other stuff. And so if Canada's going to be doing friendlies that aren't Canada or US or Mexico, it's going to have to be nations from Asia, maybe in Australia you could try to snag, but it's not going to be top nations until we're in that, the World Cup in 26, there'll be those two friendlies or whatever that you can do prior. That's maybe when we'll see something. Yeah. But in the other times...
Well, the Asia thing is interesting. If I'm a Japan or a Korea, I'm looking at Vancouver going, you know what, that's not a bad flight for our team.
Yeah.
To go and do a friendly in Canada.
But Canada doesn't want to do that, because Canada doesn't want to pay for someone to come here. They want to be paid to go somewhere else.
Right. Yeah.
Because again, we don't have the money as much.
Yeah. Well, and so the flip side of that would be also that if you're a Japan or a Korea, maybe you're looking at bringing in a Canada, that you don't want your head caved in a friendly. It does nothing for you.
We don't want injuries.
But you also don't want a soft touch. You want to be prepping your team
Absolutely.
for competition. And it kind of feels to me like Canada slides perfectly into that grouping, right? That if you are a nation that wants to prep for a World Cup while not being abused, Canada kind of looks like the team that you're going to want to be inviting in. So could we see Canada soccer actually start getting some checks cut for them to show up?
Netherlands, France in
Yeah.
advance of the Copa, where
Yeah.
they were preparing for Euros. So
Yeah.
there'll be something. It's just a matter of in which window could that happen.
So if you're a billionaire out there sitting and you want to help Canadian women's soccer, step up and buy the team. Buy Soccer Canada.
I don't think it would cost a lot.
Some would say it's already been bought.
If you had that money, you just pay out Bev Priestman and pay for a couple nations to come to.
There's a
to
lot
Canada.
of Quebec cheese involved
There's a lot-
in
well,
Soccer Canada.
I heard a little. Okay, I'll go back to that show last night. They're picking on Quebec a little. We love you, Quebec. Would love to see the Expos back. I mean that would be.
Time's running out for that one. I made a prediction
I
at the
think
start of the decade that we'll have the Expos back by the end of this decade. Time's kind of runway's starting to get a little closer because they need to get the stadium first before I think baseball gets on the
and
team.
that's our taxpayer dollars. So
But then it's also like I love this chicken and egg battle that's happening, kind of between baseball and Montreal. Montreal saying, we'll build you a stadium, but give us a team. And baseball's like, we'll give you a team, but build a stadium. And it's which one's going to go first?
I think Quebec City is the big problem in that type of thing.
Why?
Because Quebec City and Videotron were convinced to build an NHL quality stadium, and then they'd be next on the board. And all the NHL's done is just use it as a stalking horse to get better deals in the cities they already exist in. And something tells me that people understand that Major League Baseball just wants to do the same thing with Montreal. That they don't actually want to go back to Montreal, but they do want to have a viable market to make sure that they get better stadium deals in the cities that they're already in.
100%. Now, can we just touch on the jerseys that were announced today for the PWHL? What do you think?
I didn't see the jerseys.
Okay.
So I saw the logos, and I will say I'm very disappointed in the logos. They seem very marketing, like some marketing firm did them, designed them. It was like Alliance of American Football to me or something. They're very, I go on a video game and I go build a team, and it's the generic logos I get a pick from.
Is that what it is?
That's what I feel like they
either.
are, and they don't have, like, I like when teams go and do it themselves and they get different people doing all of them, but this clearly some marketing firm did them all. And I don't like that. I'd have to see them on the
I'll pull it up here for you.
PWHL. So
I don't like Ottawa's. I met their coach when I summer holidays this year. Great lady. Yeah, that's boring. It's kind of like a Calgary Flames ripoff. I don't like the sirens, but the rest are okay.
Yeah, they were definitely all done in similar fonts and
that's the thing.
and color schemes.
right, and that's just they hired someone out in New York, some firm, and said we need 6 logos. This is the name. Send them to us, as opposed to. Like, and again, I go, like, you look at the Alliance of American Football when they launched and you look at all their logos. That's what I remember JMO and I talking about. That's what it looked like to us. And then you get, like, at the time, the Kraken unveiled their logo and like, there's a difference. There's a difference between hiring some other artist who designed it with your city in mind and knows things and trying to do things, and just some marketing firm going blanket slate where they're all going to have a similar feel to them. And this is what we're going to create. So I was a little disappointed by them. The names, you got the Fleet, you got the Frost, Victoire, Sirens, Charge, and Scepter. I don't even know what this, the Toronto.
What's the Fleet?
Scepters?
Yeah, I know. The Fleet is Boston.
Yeah, but what's the Fleet?
Like, what is it?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Like, are you fleet of foot?
No, I think fleet of ships would be my
Oh,
guess.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Minnesota Frost, New York Sirens, because I guess it's
They're
always
only
going.
having big girls play for them.
The Ottawa Charge. I don't get the Ottawa Charge of
Hit
it.
the edit button.
If you are...
Ottawa Charge, like that that's the one logo I'm not I'm not a big fan of.
I've seen a few people say the same as you too, which is they look very Calgary.
I'm happy for the league, but this is your brand going forward.
I'm happy for the women
You only
playing
got
for them.
6 teams. Like, get that logo, and you want, it's all about branding, selling hats and jerseys and all the things, right? I actually almost preferred what they had before, which is the name of the city, until they figure it out. That's just me.
I like just the name of cities and stuff with things like that, or just being very generic.
The jerseys look pretty good. The colors are pretty good.
Well, the hockey looks pretty good as
The
well.
hockey's great.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy.
That's the most important
When
thing.
Toronto moved to a bigger arena, I think this year. I think last year they played in like a 2,500 seat barn, and they're moving to like an 8,000 seat barn.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
Is that the Winter Gardens or whatever, where the Marlies play out of? Is that
I
where?
think so.
Maybe.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, I just know that I saw it came out last week or something about.
It'd be nice to see that
pumping
something
up.
come out west. I mean,
Except then your cost structure goes.
It's all about
terrible,
money, right?
Yeah.
Well, you're in Minnesota. So it's always like the statement with baseball and PCL back to Edmonton or something. You would need multiple teams.
But
Can you do
maybe you
a
could have
Calgary and Vancouver?
maybe you could have a Western division, and you have a playoff in the Western division. Then once a year, you go out east and have a tournament. Like,
Could you get Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, and Seattle going?
I think that'd be cool.
You
And have
could,
4
but then
out
that's
here with
only
Minnesota.
4.
Right, but you've gone to 10 now as a league, right?
Yeah.
So like you don't want to expand too soon, too quick.
Yeah.
That's the thing no league should ever do. That's where you get into trouble.
I think
If you're going to go west, you need to make you have to make it worth teams wild financially, I guess. Although
I think you just need to follow the WNBA NBA model, where it's you need a benefactor, basically. The NBA has pumped money consistently into the WNBA, and just now they're starting to see dividends of it. And it's not because it made sense economically on a year-to-year basis. They were thinking in decades, and it's starting to pay off.
yeah, but the reason it's paying off.
Yes,
The
because
name's Caitlin Clark.
absolutely no, it's yes and no.
It's
right.
the-
Like the game had to build to a certain point where you gave a crap about a Caitlin Clark.
Fair enough. I'll give you. Yeah.
Right. And so both things kind of have to happen. You have to have the established sort of bones or structure in place so that when a Caitlin Clark does appear, you're ready to take advantage. And that's what the WNBA has been able to do. Caitlin Clark doesn't create a WNBA. A WNBA creates a Caitlin Clark. And so it is a horse and cart sort of thing. And if I'm the NHL, I think I have.
Do you want to jump on this?
Yeah, I mean,
before it takes off.
Yeah, listen, women hockey fans pay as much for their access as male hockey fans do, and that's all you're doing is you're trying to expand your pie. Like if you are in a male-dominated fan base, this is one of the best ways that you can do to expand that fan. It's not like if you're a WNBA fan, you only watch WNBA.
Yeah, that's right.
You are watching basketball
You're watching college,
non-stop,
yeah.
right? And it's the same thing with hockey. If you want to expand your fan base, one of the easiest ways to do it is to look at the other 50% of the population and ask, how can we expand into that?
And it's a great game. I love it.
Yes.
I watch it with my daughter, and my son actually caught a couple games, which was surprising for him, but it's
Well, listen, the Olympics television coverage tells you
100%.
that it does not matter your gender, you will tune in to watch it. Because it's hockey, and you love hockey, and you'll watch it at high levels.
Yeah, when it's the high level teams
Yes.
playing against each other.
Yeah. And we have seen that with the 6-team league in women's hockey.
The TV numbers are really good.
TV numbers are very strong.
Those tournaments with just US
Yes.
and Canada, or those finals are always terrific.
Yeah.
Like really, really good, intense hockey.
I mean, we've seen it with women's soccer. I mean, obviously, the grandmother of them all was women's tennis. They were the first ones to kind of take a stand and say that we don't have to take a back seat. And when you look at those majors now, women are making just as much money as the men. So, and getting pretty comparable television numbers. And in some situations,
It depends who it is.
some situations they outdraw the men, right? And so, yeah, if I'm the NHL, I'm looking at all this evidence around me going, I think we need a long-term plan here. And it can't be, well, we'll try it for 3 seasons, see what happens. We just need to commit to it because the Caitlin Clark situation is it's a license to print money now for basketball.
Maybe stop dumping all that money into teams like Arizona.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Like it's
maybe.
interesting. The Draisaitl contract had certain people going, "Ooh, I don't know," but I don't think hockey fan is ready for just how fast that cap is going to go up now that the boat anchor of Arizona is no longer on the books. Because it's not just that they took Arizona away, but they went to a market that is going to make buckets of money in Salt Lake.
Well, it's not even that. It's also the fact that the cap was always going up and then COVID hit.
Right.
And I still go back to January 2020, they announced like a $7 or $8 million increase was coming.
Yeah.
We're going to get to a point where we're back to that.
Yes.
And if they keep making their money, along with point you're pointing at too,
but it was going
it's
up.
going to be crazy that one day we will see maybe the salary cap jump like 10 million one off season.
Yeah.
Now GMs are going to make a lot of mistakes with that 10 million
Sure.
because hockey GMs just can't get out of the way for themselves. But we're going like it's going to start happening here because the NHL is back to where they were pre 2020 in terms of revenue. And they don't have to pay back or the players and all that whole situation, escrow, all that crap. It's done. Now it's like, okay, we could start seeing this cap consistently start increasing at a major pace. And to your point, Will, the fact that we now have a big difference in markets from whatever Arizona was making. And they were making more, they said, at Mullet than they were at the old Gila Arenas, whatever it was, which is not a good thing.
They were losing less, is what it was.
But now you go somewhere that it's also only going to be 11,000 seat stadium to start, but they're going to get a new facility because they get the Olympics in 34, I think it is, or something like that. And they're going to have a new facility for that that's going to be bigger for hockey, and there's going to be even more money pumped in.
Just jersey sales, like Utah's going to make a ton of money.
Even more if they just stay as Utah.
Utah has a great owner.
Yeah.
And that was the mistake in Arizona.
Yeah,
they had
exactly.
They could never find one.
Well, they could never really find an owner. Heck, they tried to make Wayne Gretzky an owner, right?
He was a gangster.
Yeah.
He was.
Mm-hmm.
He was. Nobody wanted to give him land because they knew they were never going to get paid for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
and he walked with hundreds of millions of dollars in that deal.
Right.
Paid, I think, $400 million for the team.
Oh my God.
Sold it for
1.1.
1.1.
Yeah.
Had a couple of like $100 million, I think, I think it was $200 million. They said in debt.
Oh, he's
so it's
laughing all the
he's
way
like
to the bank.
he's like up $500 million or $600 million.
Well, no, he was paid to go away, right? Because he had legal options if the NHL decided to strong arm him. So the NHL just went, you know what? Enough. Like you've embarrassed us as an ownership group enough. We just need to. It was like a divorce, right?
There was the press.
Some divorces they go to battle and
she got the house and the garage.
right, like
Or
and
he
this
got the house.
this was the divorce where the husband already has the girlfriend and just wants to run away and be in love,
And he has another girlfriend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There was the press conference when they moved with Gary Bettman and Morello. And Morello was talking. It was just not going. And you could see Bettman was like frustrated with him and like wanted to like beat him down or something.
Yeah, like,
and it's probably now just like that guy is gone.
Yeah, just vibes alone. This is a league that is set to make a lot of money and see that salary cap increase. It's going to be interesting though. If we start to see consistent increases to the salary cap, do we start to see those star players taking less and less term on their contract negotiations?
Yeah.
Before we actually get into that discussion, the official drink of the EST Hangout is the Finnish long drink, Legend of 1952, a drink unlike any other sparkling refreshment, real liquor. Go to thelongdrink.com/Canada. You can enter your postcode and find where in Edmonton you can pick it up. It's absolutely delicious. I think I saw VR Montenegro in the Nasty Chat earlier saying he had it this weekend, and he confirmed it. Like it's actually one. When you try it, you will go, wow, this is absolutely incredible. The official drink of the EST Hangout. Matt Iwanyk, Wil Fraser, Don Ellis with you here. That I was actually a little surprised Leon didn't do that in a sense.
It was the rumor, right? Like one of the rumors out there was that he was going to do a 3 to maybe 4 year contract and then,
I thought like after
then reevaluate.
What happened with Nathan McKinnon and Leon, the fact that they were locked into these long contracts and they ended up becoming severely underpaid.
Yep.
I would have thought hockey players around now would have went, I could get financial security by locking in for 8 years. But I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to be great. I'm going to sign for 4 years, and then I'm going to hit to the market and make even more money. And I'm just going to constantly just go get as much money as I can. I was pleasantly surprised by that.
I think it's more common amongst the European players than it is the North American ones.
To what? To lock in?
Yeah, to choose security and predictability over the most money possible. I think you just see that with certain Europeans. They have a different sensibility. They understand that the difference between $14 and $15 million is actually not as much as you think that it is. And so they'll take peace of mind and sleeping better at night over maximizing the amount of money that they can make, because they also know that you can waste that money just as quickly.
Oh, sure.
Right?
If you don't have a good account, I mean, look at the Oilers in the early. Grant Fuhr was bankrupt most of his time, right? Like,
yeah, he was on an allowance,
geez.
allegedly from Glenn Sather. So he got his salary, and then that was put into an account that was then portioned out to him, because he couldn't be trusted with access to his own bank account.
Now, if I was that age back then and I had that cash,
yeah. Woo! Not only that, but they were rock stars.
Well, they totally were.
And they lived like rock stars.
And they should.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, I don't get why people were saying that, oh, geez, Leon at $8 million, that was too much. That was a bargain. Like, we got a stud for all those years at $8 million. So
at the time of the deal, it looked like an overpayment. I remember people were upset. There was some that went there and be like, "You're overpaying."
I wouldn't say it looked like a potential overpayment, in that a lot of people went and asked the question, how good can he be? And they said, well, if he's only a 75 point per game player, this is a slight overpayment.
Yeah, that consistency hadn't cut in yet with his play.
But yeah, it was one where people thought they should have signed him to about 7.5.
We also didn't know,
a little bit more.
When he signed that, we didn't know he was a goal scorer.
No, but that's like when he signed it,
passer.
He shot up, and it was this is a bargain contract. Yeah. They are.
And
absolutely.
What he got now, that's market value and good for him.
I don't even. I think he
took $1 million pay cut.
Oh, I think
per year.
I think him and Connor sat back and said, "I'm going to take this. You take this.
Yeah,
we're going to win a cup or two here."
If Leon goes to the market and says, "I want 15." Well, even as much as if he said, "I want 15.5," somebody's giving it to
him. If he goes as an unrestricted free agent to the market, he gets that 20%.
He can get whatever he wanted.
Whatever that 20% is going to be.
Yes.
And next year, that 20% is probably going to be $19 million, in that range. So if you want to say...
Well, it would have been... I think you could only... If you sign... I think you could only sign based on the cap today.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. If he was in the...
If he would have waited until he became an unrestricted free agent, the cap would have gone up by another
NHL cap.
Because I think it's around 17 million right now would have been the 20% cap.
I'm just trying to remember what the cap is.
I think they would have announced it a little sooner, but what happened, horrific thing that happened
they had
with
to
the Hugo family, they
give it space.
Gave it space.
So it's 88 million. Let's say it goes up 5 million.
And it'll go up more than that, but...
I don't know.
5 million.
18.6.
I think it's going to go up 7, would be my guess.
I would hope so. I thought I heard 4 million was the initial projection.
I think that's just based upon like a Arizona Coyote NHL, right? That even with Arizona, it would have gone up by about 4. I think you take that out of the equation.
Cap Friendly predicts it'll be 92 million.
Yeah.
Okay, so
that's a $4 million increase.
Yeah.
So that's from May of 2024. Obviously, Cap Friendly is gone now. So yeah, people are projecting 92. So we'll see. But yeah, so maybe
whatever
it's 18-19.
In that 18-19, he only could have signed for a 7-year deal.
Yes.
However, so that is a bit of a haircut.
Yes.
And the only team that's offering you that kind of money is a bad hockey team.
Right, but he could have got
that's what he could have got.
I think there's those middle teams, playoff teams that would have made some changes to bring that in,
sure,
even if they cost that money.
Yeah, any team that is without not just a number one center, but an elite number one center would have been knocking on its door.
Like a Minnesota Wild, let's say, is a team that's just those, that playoff team just outside. Maybe they get rid of a couple guys.
Just look at the team down south.
Yeah.
Right? Telling me the Flames aren't giving him 20% to take him away from the Oilers and improve their own hockey team.
But that's where I think he would have. That's where he took a bit of hometown.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's why I'm like 14 million is not a bad piece of work from from Stan Bowman.
Well done.
Yeah.
Job well done.
Yeah. No, Smitty the Welder saying he could have signed for 17.9. That's the max right now. No, we know that, as Will pointed out, though, if he went to UFA,
It would have been one more
next
year.
summer.
Yeah.
He would have been a UFA. So what would have been the max as of July 1st, 2025?
Yeah.
And that's what we were trying to figure out
And you
there.
would have had that distraction for the team the whole year. Like it would have been bad.
D. White, LOL, 19 by 8 for a player 29 years old. Yeah, but like one of the top players in hockey, 29 years
It would
old.
have been 19 by 7.
And by 7. But also, like, there's a lot of teams that don't care about those last few years.
Right.
They wouldn't care. They would make that sign because they want the first 5 years of Leon Draisaitl and then see what those next 2 years
The
are
guy
going to be.
played on one leg through the playoffs a couple years
Yes.
ago, and if he was healthy, I think we would have won the cup.
He's one of the most prolific playoff
He's
scorers
an
of all
absolute
time.
stud.
And those top stars of the NHL, I'll say, the guys that are in the top 5 players right now in hockey, how often do they really regress in such a major way?
Well,
They last still for a long time.
They're both healthy, and
Well, the
But
only
like Sidney Crosby's great, still. Evgeny Malkin is still playing at a really high level, like and
Worth
for
his
a long time.
contract.
Well, but that,
Yes.
like these players don't have, like, we look at Leon, and I know there's some people like, oh, it's going to be those last few years maybe really tough. Why?
Yeah.
Well, what we've learned about with sports science and stuff, these top players can keep playing to such a. Is Leon Draisaitl going to be, exactly what he is now? No. But what he still could be is still going to be really good, is what I'm projecting.
Leon
because that's what we
Draisaitl-
see with athletes nowadays. And I'll throw this out there: who knows what the next 8 years of sports science is going to show us?
If Leon Draisaitl was 36 years old and scoring 70 points a year and doing 54% in the dot, would he be worth $8 million? Yeah, he would be, right? Like, you would still happily pay $8 million for a 70-point-a-year centerman who wins 54% of his draws. And so that's kind of, no one's expecting Leon Draisaitl to be scoring 110 points when he's 36 years old. But the production that he does give you will probably be worth whatever $14 million a year is worth in that NHL. In the NHL 6 years from now, because there is just salary creep across the board. It's interesting. I've been tuning into some of the commentary coming out of Colorado, and there is worry that this contract has thrown an absolute wrench in the negotiations they're having with Mikko Rantanen, who is also soon to become an unrestricted free agent. There was assumptions that the contract was ready and waiting to be signed as soon as he came back into town. It's still not signed. He is still not put pen to paper. And a lot of people are sitting there going, oh,
well, his agent's like,
his
"Whoa."
agency, exactly. Draisaitl just changed the market. Mikko Rantanen is not Leon Draisaitl, but he's probably also worth more than
damn
the
good
deal
hockey
that
player.
they thought they had.
Yeah.
Right. And when you're in Colorado, the other complicating factor, like the advantage for Edmonton is just they've lucked out contract wise that Connor McDavid didn't sign before Leon Draisaitl. That would have complicated things because you can never pay a Leon Draisaitl more than a Connor McDavid, even though the market shifts, right? That's what's going on in Colorado. They've already paid Nathan McKinnon and re-upped him long term. And now they're sitting there going, well, we can't pay Mikko Rantanen more, even if the market demands it.
See, and that's what I find fascinating about hockey is that they say that and they do that. But that's not what happens in other sports.
Right, exactly.
Like in the NFL, Dak's now the highest paid player ever.
He got $60 million.
Like, in terms of-
$60 million
yeah, like-
a year.
But is he the best quarterback in the National Football League?
Yeah.
Like, but it's the next guy that comes up. Now, maybe the team-wise is different. That doesn't happen with teams.
Yeah.
But that's to me, it's, well, he's the next guy up. So
It's what screwed
you
up the
sign
Flames.
next up.
It's what screwed up the Flames. The Flames had their internal cap that no one should make more than Mark Giordano. And then they had to keep going to battle with their younger players about how much they could make, which then led their younger players to take shorter contracts and then force the issue. And then before you know it, you have a potential MVP who's playing and winning a Stanley Cup for Florida and not for your team in Kachuk. And that all starts because you do this silly thing where you go, well, he's our captain, he's our best player, therefore It doesn't matter what happens. As long as that guy's under contract, no one can make more than him. Vancouver Canucks are about to experience something very similar in that they've decided Quinn Hughes is the face of our franchise. And it's the right call. He is the face of their franchise. But because of that, they've already decided within this organization, no one can ever make more than Quinn Hughes. And that's a long time and a salary creep that doesn't justify it, especially if the cap is expected to go up on average of $4 to $6 million every single season. So, like I said, Oilers, I mean, to be good, you also have to be lucky, and the Oilers are lucky that Connor McDavid negotiates his contract a year after Leon Draisaitl and not the other way around, because it would have complicated things with Leon Draisaitl.
Maybe.
Like you can,
but if Connor goes signs at say Leon $60 million, you could go to Leon and be, okay, maybe he gets.
But my point is, you
instead.
can pay Leon Draisaitl $1.5 million more than you're paying Connor McDavid for 1 year, but you couldn't do that for 5 years.
No, but I think Connor, though, the one difference the Oilers would have with Connor would be the guy that
Connor might not care.
Well, that also, he just going to set the NHL market.
Right.
So if he goes up next year and he gets 16.
Yeah.
Well, Leon, I don't think would have been going, I want 16.5.
Yeah.
I think with the difference, he'd been going, I want 15.
Yeah, exactly.
So they would have lost $1 million.
And we don't know what the bonuses are hidden in those contracts either. Like if you get a Stanley Cup, we don't know, right?
Well, Leon's only getting paid $1 million for his contract.
Yeah.
A majority of it is signing bonuses.
It's just all
July
signing
1,
bonus,
it's going to be, here's your check, Leon.
Yeah.
And then he's going to get the $1 million through the rest of the year, which is, what chump change that $1 million is.
By gum.
Wow, it's also the benefit of having a rich owner, right?
Who can do that?
Who can just hand out
Just make it work.
$50 million at a go.
Well, as long as they're making the playoffs, it's not going to be hard for
No, I
Daryl
agree. But they kind of, chicken and the egg sort of thing, right?
Yeah, but you got all that revenue from playoffs. And how good was this city during the playoffs? Like, wow.
It's always a perfect storm. You get spring, so everyone's already in a good mood because the weather's nice, and then you're cheering on the Edmonton Oilers.
It was just fantastic.
And then you just get to be outside in nice weather watching hockey. It just went really long, though.
Yeah.
The NHL needs to bump things up.
Yeah,
June 24th is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it should be over at the end of May.
Well, they also start too late. I mean, that's part of the problem, right? Like this should be a September 30th league, right? This should be a league that plays their first games at the end of September, and instead they do it 2 weeks into October almost.
Yeah.
And you could really use those 2 weeks at the end of the year rather than at the beginning.
Absolutely.
Shorten the preseason. And like Oilers do not need 8 preseason games. Well, 7 preseason games technically. Well, they one day is a split squad. They're in Edmonton.
Fans paying for the tickets
Calgary.
don't need 7 preseason games.
No. Like, but I just hate anything preseason.
Yeah,
it's just awful. Yeah. Although football is the worst.
You get a glimpse.
I can't watch it.
Bobby. Well,
I would prefer if they did a training camp situation like we've seen with the young stars. I think it would be better for hockey if
just bring everyone together.
Yeah, so
instead of doing the young stars in Penticton, the Oilers, Flames,
but
Jets, and Canucks.
Maybe not Penticton.
No, but
heck, if they want to all go to Vegas for their first 2 weeks or whatever, or Los Angeles, or
you want to do what soccer
Hartford,
does,
right? Yeah.
Where the teams all over Europe come to America or Australia or China or India, and they do preseason tours.
Yep.
That would be a bad way to make a little bit extra cash.
Yep.
I would think. This is the EST Hangout. Matt Iwanyk, Wil Fraser, Don Ellis with you here. Let's get to Road Warriors, which is brought to you by AccuSteel Heavy Haul Trailers, custom manufacturing of heavy haul trailers for mining, oil and gas equipment, highway transportation, no patch jobs, better than you solutions, trusted by leaders in the heavy transport industry. Get on the road with peace of mind for your large loads. AccuSteel.ca. The New York Jets are a road team as they head off to Santa Clara, to take on the San Francisco 49ers. Aaron Rodgers back with the New York Jets for his second season. Hopefully for Jets fans playing a little bit more. What's so funny? Well,
just couldn't happen to a nicer fan base. I don't know if there's a team that I enjoy watching faceplant more than the New York Jets. Like they are just,
oh boy,
there's just nothing about them that I like, and I'm just so happy that they have the quarterback that I like the least as well, and that he just is a putz. Like just it's chef's kiss. I love it every year.
I just intrigued. Like there's always that one thing that derails them. Last year it started off
Like, you would've
first
thought-
quarter with Aaron Rodgers' injury. What's going to derail this season?
You
the New York
would have
Jets?
thought that
Sorry, Clausen. Sorry, Majot.
that after Brett Favre, they would have said, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't be chasing down these really old narcissists anymore, because it doesn't seem to work out for us.
I got to go with the Green Bay Packers stats.
Actually, how injured is Love? Does anyone
About
know?
4 to 6, they say.
4 to 6 weeks. Oh, that could be really good for my Bears, is what that could be.
Well, but like I'm trying to see. I saw the stat on Twitter
Bears
this
got an
weekend.
unbelievable freebie yesterday. I don't.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Yeah. No, that was.
Just toss this
we'll
off
accept
to the
it.
side. Oh Jesus!
I think he became only like, he became the first number 1 overall quarterback drafted to win his first game since like 2002. So
wow.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I'm still trying to find this. Here.
Even though he did not win that game for Chicago. His defense
No,
stepped
the
up.
quarterbacking in offense yesterday was
I don't know. If you're Dustin Nielsen, you better
Well,
be. You're
he's
pretty happy
pretty
about your
The
quarterbacking.
Lion-
if you're a Bills fan, you're pretty happy about your quarterbacking.
well,
Like,
it's the Bills. It's
yeah,
early.
yeah, that's true.
I can't find the actual stat here or whatever it was, but I saw it on Friday. The amount of games that. Oh, maybe I found it here. Still don't have it. The Green Bay Packers since like 92 or whatever it is. Almost every start has come from just 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. And I was just trying to see exactly how many games they didn't start Jordan Love. I do have one thing where Matt Flynn started 6 games. Scott Tolzien started 2 games. And Seneca Wallace started a game. During a span of like 32 years for the Green Bay Packers. But beyond that, it's always been Favre, Rodgers, or they've moved to Jordan Love. Like that span of just knowing you have a quarterback is ridiculous.
Yeah, the security of it.
Like,
And
the
in-
Elks have played 2 quarterbacks just this season.
And in that span, my Bears have never had a quarterback.
Hey, Rex Grossman, Sexy Rexy took you to a Super Bowl.
No, he didn't.
He took you to the
Devin
Super Bowl.
Hester took him to a Super Bowl. Grossman lost that Super Bowl for them.
Bears need a new owner.
Yep. They've always needed a new owner. That's the only thing that's been consistent about
so
the Bears
bad.
is that they've had the worst ownership.
And that's
Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just, and that's one of the worst parts about sport. Like when there was all this talk about an Elks ownership change, the thing that worries me always about that is if you get an owner, you can't fire an owner.
Nope.
You know, when you
No, but you can stay in the CFL. You can stay away.
Sure.
NFL, you can't. Like they're all crack addicts.
that
right?
one's
like,
that is one of the most exclusive clubs in the world.
Yeah.
There's 32 of them, and there is a huge, at least in the U.S. and I would say a little bit worldwide. There's a prestige to being
Absolutely.
an NFL owner.
Well, it's the club where money can't buy you it.
No.
Right?
Thankfully, they kicked
it's not
Trump out
just
many years
yeah,
ago.
it's not just about being rich. It's about being a part of a club. Because there's plenty of multi-billionaires who don't own NFL teams, and that's because the club doesn't want them because they don't need them.
Jeff Bezos can't get in.
Yeah.
You know, he wanted the Commanders.
Paul Allen,
No, we're good.
There is
We
a
don't need
list
you.
of some of the world's richest people who can't get into that club.
And it's actually not going to get bigger because the NFL has just like approved the initial part of allowing like funds to purchase teams, portions of the team, and it's only a certain percent of it. They can't be
Right.
the majority owners. But you're getting to a point where like if what would an NFL expansion team go for today?
3 bill? 3 to 4. 3 to 4 bill.
I would almost go 5
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like the Broncos sold for what?
Well, actually, no.
Like 4 or 5
you're right.
bill,
I'm
6 bill.
I'm going from a dated number. It's probably 8.
Even higher?
If NHL teams are going for a bill,
A bill.
NFL teams are going for 8.
What was the last NFL sale? Was it Washington? That might have
But
been
this
the
is
last
part
one.
of like those are deflated values.
Yeah.
That's not an
What
open
did the
market.
Chargers
No,
go
absolutely.
for
So the Commanders went for $6 billion.
Yeah.
So let's
And if he could have gone to the open market, he could have gotten more. But because the ownership club has to decide who they want to be as an owner, it caps the
But
number.
let's put it at $6 billion. How many people actually out there have $6 billion to buy a franchise? The number's getting smaller.
Yeah.
Of how many people that could purchase professional sports franchises.
Right.
And because, that's the pricing is just getting absolutely ridiculous. And it's all Steve Ballmer's fault.
Well, the Saudis bought this PGA, so anything can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, with that, and then some NFL owners are in that. But like with the moment Steve Ballmer said, "I'll pay $2 billion for the Clippers," when the market value would have been like $800 million.
Well, but
everything changed.
It's actually the live golf thing is part of what makes the NFL ownership group even more cloistered.
Sure.
Is they've seen
what can happen
when you just allow anyone to come in and throw money at it. And that's what they want it to be their country club. It is Augusta National. That's what NFL ownership 100%. Is. Right? If you opened up membership to Augusta to whoever wanted to be there, do you know how much a membership would cost at Augusta National? It would be in the millions of dollars. But that's not what they want. They just want their club.
Yes, but if you have money, you can get in the club. Yes,
but you need more than just money. You need a club member to vouch for you.
Yeah, but they all know each other.
Right? Yeah, but that same is said about the NFL, where they all know each other. They don't all vouch for each other. In fact, more often than not, they look for reasons to keep you. I mean, heck, listen, even the NHL does it to a certain extent.
Got to stamp it.
Look at Jim Balsillie, right?
It's Jerry or Kraft.
Both.
They fight each other now. They used to be allies, but now they're like on opposite ends.
Like I would say all 4 major professional sports in North America operate this way.
As an exclusive club?
As an exclusive club.
I don't know if the NHL's there fully yet.
Well, like I said,
they'll just welcome almost
ask Jim Balsillie. Ask Jim Balsillie.
Because he went against them in a little bit.
That's
but
right.
At the same time, if Jeff Bezos says, I want the Arizona Coyotes and I'm going to keep them there, they would be like, oh, you want to keep them in Arizona and you have money here, take this team. Like they would have done what it took for that. And there was no one that was coming in and being like, we'll take this money to keep this team in Arizona. It took Ryan Smith to have to come up and be like, I will take this team to Utah. Here's the money.
Yeah. But he was also the right kind of owner, right?
Yeah, but we've seen them with Arizona. How many bad owners, as Don had earlier, how many bad owners did they give?
They would only take bad owners for Arizona, though, right? Like it's not like they're looking at this isn't going to happen.
I just
don't think they're looking at Calgary going, it doesn't matter who we put in Calgary.
That was the same problem in Quebec, though. They're a terrible owner. Yeah. And that's why the Nordiques left.
It's true. I mean, there is rumors out there that the Senators were sold to the second highest bid.
Yeah, it wasn't full. They didn't get as much money.
Because they wanted the right owner in there. So it depends on the market, right, as far as what they're willing to tolerate.
But also the NHL still feels a little bit like they can't always be too picky because if someone has money, get them in the league.
I think they got some guys with money, though, like Cates and all those guys now that'll say, okay, we like this Ryan guy.
Yep.
He's got a vision.
Exactly.
He's doing all the right things. He built the arena.
I will say this, I wonder where Cates stands in terms of influential owners. Because you don't hear his name ever brought up with influential owners. You've heard about Murray Edwards. You've heard about, who's Boston's owner? I forgot Boston's owner. But there's like a couple of that you always like in the NFL. We know there's the power players.
Well, the Wirtzes used to be that in Chicago.
And I've never heard Daryl's name thrown out as that.
It's not what Daryl wants.
But that's also like, does he just want to sit back? I'm like, I only care about the Oilers.
Yeah.
You guys do what you do. Or is he actually involved, but he's very quiet about it? Like, I'm actually, because, you're the owner of the Edmonton Oilers, who have 2 of the best players in hockey.
I think Daryl really likes Seattle getting a franchise. I think, because that's a good ownership group too.
Jacobs, thank you.
Yeah.
But that's where you just never hear his name as like is he going to push something through? And I'm just fascinated how it really is.
I think those are actually probably the more influential owners.
The ones you don't know?
Like the Murray Edwards are the guys that take the bullets in the media to be able to maintain a position of influence because he doesn't actually own the entire team. He is part of a group of owners. Whereas Philip Anschultz, which is the perfect example of a guy that you never hear from, but he owns like 60% of the arenas that these guys play in.
Yeah.
Right. Or has the contract to market or does the servicing for them or whatever. So like there are quiet people who probably have way more influence that we have any idea of. And that's the way they want it.
Has a big
Yeah.
And Daryl's been an owner for a very long time now.
Yeah.
Like we're coming up on
It's like any
20
group,
years
right?
soon
You
right
have
away.
You have your outspoken guys, and then you have the common sense and the reason in the background going, okay, we'll let this guy do a little bit of this, but okay, we need to rein him in.
When is Daryl on his
And
20
boy, did
years?
they give Gary a long, long rope with Arizona.
Well, we talked about this with the NFL. It's a job where you're hired to eat bowls of crap, right? Like, and Gary Bettman is one of the best at it, right?
2008, Daryl Cates was bought the team. So
Wow,
we're 16 years into
16 years. Yeah.
It's a long time. We're not far away from 20 years of Daryl Cates.
Well, look what
First
he's
team.
done.
Super, my dad just think
He has achieved what he wanted.
It feels like it was just yesterday. Bob Stauffer was telling us about how I'm trying to buy the team.
Oh, Bobby.
Yeah, he was once
Has
again.
he wrote his tree planting book yet?
Yeah.
I don't know what Bob's book would be.
Bob-
It'd be chapters. It wouldn't be a book on tree planting. It'd be a chapter of
chapters
the book.
trees, and he'd always go back to it.
You have to have a chapter on trees, a chapter on why he was never a hockey player,
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
a chapter on his time as SID of the University of Alberta, a chapter just strictly on Rob Dahm,
Yeah.
a chapter on his good looks from back in the day when he looked like Tom Cruise.
When you could see his eyes.
There would be the chapter on what am I missing?
We love you, Bob. We're just taking a.
How delicious Royal Pizza is.
I think it's a love story. I don't know if there's a guy out there that loves things as intensely,
he's a passionate
Bob
man.
does.
I still stand
That's
by
the beautiful thing about it.
if he could get paid the same amount as he gets paid now
to be the SID, yeah.
he would do it. He would go back to the U of A and not be with the Oilers.
Absolutely.
That's his true love.
Yes.
That's the team he cares, the place he cares more about. If he could do the same pay, he would drop the Oilers in a heartbeat to be with the U of A again.
Oh, I believe it. And I don't blame him either. If you have never experienced a U of A versus U of S
Unbelievable.
Friday night hockey game, you've missed
There's
out.
nothing like the Drake. I'm so glad they haven't tried to move that.
Nor should they.
If you want to go to a game, I love supporting.
You want to talk about a building they should just put money into?
Oh,
And that's my
that's
fear.
a shrine.
Claire
That's
Drake.
a church.
I always am going to be fearful there'll be that day we wake up one day and there'll
Yeah.
be the press release from the U of A going,
You walk in the doors.
we're building this rink by the Saville Center or something.
Yeah.
And it would just be like, no.
The only reason the U of A should not play at the Drake is because they have to vacate it for them to renovate it. That's the only reason.
And you could probably, with how small it is, renovate it throughout the course of the summer.
Right.
The off season.
Yeah.
And just
What a sacred.
I have no doubt that they probably need to replace their ice making. They probably have to replace a roof from time to time.
Yeah.
They got a strong alumni.
Yeah, you can update your bathrooms, but that building and more importantly, that footprint of the arena, of the ice surface
You're
itself,
right there.
should never change.
You can never touch the benches.
Yeah.
The Bears need to have their bench, and the visitors need to have that small bench where they're standing in the hallway next to the penalty box.
and the crypt keeper corners, man.
Fantastic. Absolutely.
You want to talk home ice advantage? That is home ice advantage. And more team hockey should do that.
They are my patient zero of every time I argue about how the NHL needs to go to a minimum, maximum ice surface definition. Major League Baseball does it for their fields. It's what makes baseball so great.
Soccer does it.
And soccer does it as well, in that you need to say it can be no larger than this and no smaller than this, and anything in between there, have at her, so that you honestly create true home ice advantage. Because the numbers have continued to shrink as far as what home ice advantage actually means over the years. And that needs to return.
And I totally agree. And we got some great rivalries here too with McEwen.
Actually, then they've become a really good hockey program
pretty
inside
well.
of U Sport.
Played pretty well against the Bears last year. So it's great hockey. We're so fortunate. We got great junior around town.
Yeah.
To me, I will not take, if there's one place I have to watch a hockey game for the rest of my life, I get to choose. I'm taking the Drake.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't need to go to an Oiler game. I don't need to go to an Oiler game. I don't need to go to MSG for a hockey game. It would be just take me to the Drake and let me watch the Bears. Because also they look so good in their uniforms. They don't have a single bad uniform.
I haven't been back in there since COVID. Is it still $5 beers?
Oh yeah.
I think. Well, I was at the football game and it was $7.50.
$7.50 at the football game.
Yeah, so I'm assuming
Okay.
is
I
hockey
think
still the
it's
same?
$5 or $6.
Because football was
I went to 2 or 3
$7.50.
games.
$5 for a can of beer was it still is.
$7.50 for a tall boy.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I could live with that. It's still pretty solid.
Oh, $7.50 for a tall boy.
Tall boy.
Okay, so it might still be $5
If they're pouring, then
for
yeah,
$3.55. Yeah.
And yeah, that's just, you can't beat it. The only thing that's wrong that's a Bears game now is you can't go to main gym. There's no main gym. You'd end the game. You'd
agree.
watch the hockey game.
I
You'd
agree.
go and
You'd
watch
go
the
down the
fourth
hall.
quarter of the basketball
Yes.
game or the third
Or the
set
volleyball.
or whatever, the volleyball.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was just something beautiful about that.
I
and
agree.
the fact that main gym isn't there,
Yeah.
that hurts a little
Got to
bit.
pop up to the Bears Den.
It's not just that main
Going to
gym
watch
was awesome.
the end of whatever sport was going on and just getting that little extra. And
Yeah.
it was just,
Not only that,
it was
but that
awful.
main gym's acoustics for volleyball were psychotic. The sound of the ball off of a serve was wild.
And I stand by the best program inside of U of A athletics. It's their volleyball program.
Yes, it is.
That's their top
Champions.
program.
Ask Pepperdine,
Constant.
right?
Champion.
Like,
Yes.
Like
Yes.
ask Stanford.
They're so
Yeah.
good.
They are so strong. It's just
And consistently good.
yes.
Like, kids want to go play there.
Yep.
And they've changed. Like, I don't know if both programs have changed their head coach or if just one of them has had a head coaching change, and it's still continuing. The success is still there for Bears
But they do
fans.
such a
Football.
good job. Like, Morris is building a beautiful thing with the football team.
Yeah, football's a little different, but the other programs have suffered from McEwen joining U Sport.
I will also, though,
Because it used to be that the head coach from the U of A would come to you and be like, "We love you. We think you're great. We want you to go play at McEwen for 2 years."
Yeah.
And when you're ready, we'll just bring you right in. And I mean, and McEwen benefited from that in the ACAC. They dominated because they had all these soon-to-be Golden Bears playing on their squad.
That's true.
And vice versa. They used it as a farm team. And it was a really nice reciprocal arrangement. And now that they're competing against each other, U of A's program has suffered a little bit in that they don't have the same pipeline of talent that they used to.
I can't remember how many years in a row, but I think it's over 20. Maybe it's 15 straight years that the U of A athletics has at least one national championship in a season. So
They're very,
that's
very
good.
dominant in youth sports. It's
And respectfully, they care about the academics still too.
Well, they have to.
Well, but that's the thing. Like, they're one of those the schools that it's like, well, yeah, you could be good athletically, but you also have to be good academically to play for us. And they keep that as a thing.
Yeah,
and
you
that's
have
what makes
to
it
hit
big.
a certain standard.
You can't. They're not a school that's like willing to take a little bit of a hit on the academics to get good athletically, and yet they're still strong athletically across so many different things.
Well, yeah, University, was it Brandon was famous for that, for bringing in not exactly academically strong.
Any college in the U.S.,
Yeah.
like half the
Yes.
kids can't school.
The school down south with football
Yes.
was historically known for
Yeah.
they brought in the top athletes. They didn't actually have to worry about the talk academics, and that was the challenge for Chris Morris. Was how do you bring in a player here when you have to deal with both academics and athletics? But Chris is a teacher, so he cares about that.
And with online classes, it's only gotten worse over the last 15 years. In that, like, especially in the States, you hear about some of these guys that technically had a full course load, but only went to one class. Like, they only went to one classroom, and that was it. Everything else was an online.
And that was for home ec.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Learn how to make toast.
Yeah. It's amazing they can't handle their money.
Coming
to
up
become
next year
professionals.
on Edmonton Sports Talk, your choice for Edmonton Sports. It is the Lock Shop, Dusty Huss, Pat Gregoire at noon. It's the Oil Stream. And then later in the afternoon, we've got EST Afternoons as well as the Reed Wilkins Show. All to come on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Tune in iHeartRadio and on YouTube. Don Ellis with Contemporary Office Interiors, COI.ca if you're looking to furnish your entire office tower. Or if your office as well. And Don does a lot of great things with Kids Sport as well. And Mr. Wil Fraser, who just looking...
Is not Don Ellis.
Don, Will, appreciate you guys coming in. This was a fun couple of hours.
Quick.
Thanks for tuning in to the EST Hangout on behalf of Don, Will, I'm Matt. Thanks again. And like I said, Lock Shop coming up in just a few minutes right here on Edmonton Sports Talk. Don't go anywhere.
Look at this. Let's go.
There you go, right in front of the camera.
First-time guest, long-time listener, fan of the original draft commissioner.
Welcome to the EST Hangout presented by White Claw Hard Seltzer. The difference is clear. Matt Iwanyk, Tom Zola with here, joining us today.